Okay, so we are going to be doing a new technique today that I think will be kind of interesting. We're going to make a row of trees up here in fall colors. And then down here, this is going to be a body of water, and you're going to see the reflection of the trees. So the first thing you want to do is fold your paper in half, hot dog style, so you have a nice horizontal line. And we're going to be using either your tube watercolors or your or acrylic, whatever you've got handy. So you need a paper plate and your brushes, some water. You don't even need a pencil for this one because we're just going to have it very nice and loose. So once you have your paper folded, I'm mixed a little bit of red and orange for this tree. The paint does need to stay wet for a while, so make sure you have plenty of water. You don't want it soupy, but you do want it wet, because what we're going to do to make the reflections is we're going to basically print our tree. So kind of rub it and then carefully open it up. There we go. We've got the first one done. And then we're going to just kind of work our way over using different colors. This one I'm going to use more. You could probably do, 4 or 5 trees, not all the same. Now the trick is to keep your arm out of what you just did, right? And this one's going to be a taller, skinnier tree. And when you have it painted, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to, and then rub it after you fold it, and then bring it up. That one didn't come through as much. I think maybe I'll add some more paint down here so that it prints better. There you go. That's better. Okay, I'm going to clean my brush off, and I'm going to add some yellow to this. Keeping in mind what I learned with the last tree is need to make sure it's really wet. This one's I'm going to have going over just a little bit to the outside, so it's going to be cropped just a little bit. Really slather on the paint. And then when you're done, again, you're going to fold it and then rub it. There we go. Now, obviously, the ones that we're actually looking at above the water are going to be bolder than the ones that are reflected, right? Okay, so now let's add a little green to this yellow. See what kind of color that makes. another tree here. Now you can use any color trees you want. This one's going to be kind of touching that one, kind of behind this one too. So you can make it realistic. And just remember to keep your paint wet. And then fold it. There we go. I think I'll rub on that a little bit more. I like how this technique also kind of gives a texture to our initial trees. Okay, and now I'm going to use a brown. Oops, it came out a little. And mix it with some of my green. Green color is getting a little old. I think I need to get myself a new set of watercolor tube paints. Maybe that'll be my Christmas present to myself. This is going to be more of like a evergreen, just for a little contrast between the orange and the red. And okay, put some more water on this. Okay, so this will be our last tree. Next thing we're going to be working on are the trunks. There you go. Okay, so I'm going to get a smaller paintbrush out. And I'm going to use this dark brown that I put out, and I'm going to work on the trunks. And then maybe put some branches going up there. And then again, with each one, we're going to press it. And you want each of your trunks to be a little different. This one I'm going to make skinnier and taller. Okay, so we're done with that part of it. Pretty fun. Okay, so now we're going to I'm going to get a different color of green, and we're going to do the landscape. There we go. Definitely need a new set of paints. Okay, so we're going to do the land, and we're going to do like half of it, print it, and then another half. So, because we don't want this to dry out. And you can use a more yellow green if you want. Maybe I'll do less than half because I really want to make sure. Maybe I'll just do to 2 trees. Don't want it to dry out. I don't know, I think this is looking pretty cool. So you're going to paint it down to the fold. And you're going to paint around your previous watercolors because you don't want them to blend together. I'm adding a little bit of darker green here. If you're using acrylics, your colors are probably a little more vibrant than the effect that I'm getting with the watercolors. Okay, so I'm going to put some more detail up at the top. So that it shows that there's a difference between, I think I'm going to put some more paint over here because I'm not quite sure how this area, I'm not sure I like it. So we'll try to give it a little more color. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. Okay, so now the next thing that we want to do is paint the bottom here blue, right, for our water. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint the sky. And then print. So paint just a little bit of the sky and then go ahead. Actually, I'm going to use a bigger brush on this so that I can get the sky on there a little bit faster before it dries out. But you probably need to use a smaller there we go, a smaller brush. Right around the trees. And then you can get it a little darker up here because we're not going to print. There we go. Okay, now we'll keep moving around with our big brush. Need to use a smaller brush to get in between these trees. Go ahead and do that. Okay, last little section of the sky. I'm going to turn this around because this is going to be a project that you're going to need to put weights on, books, you know, something heavy after it's all dry in order to flatten it out. Okay, now I'm going to take my small brush and kind of get rid of some of these puddles. Just kind of spread them out a little bit. And then we can go over the bottom a little bit and put just a little bit of water, blue for the water, over the top of these, because remember, this is the water part. Just a little bit, because we don't want, and you're going to have to change your brush out a little bit, because see, so that you don't blot, get your paints all mixing together. So it needs to be very light. So that everything looks a little watery, because it is. And then up here we can put a little darker blue, because it's near the shadow of the land, right? Okay, so now what we want to do is let this dry for a little bit. Not so much this part, but this part. Because we're going to put some more details on here, because this is the part that we will see. This is the realistic part. This we want to be kind of blurry. And so that's why we're going to put some details on it that are kind of bold. A little trouble with some paint going over there, but I think we're okay now. All right, so let it dry and then we'll come back together. Okay, so what I'm doing now is just taking my ultra fine Sharpie and just doing some outlining on the trees that are above the water line, not the reflections, because they'll be much crisper than the trees down here. And we want that contrast between the trees that we're looking at and the reflection of those trees. And you can also do around the trunk and then the land here. Okay. If you want to get real fancy, you can also get some crayons out or some oil pastels. I think I have some here handy. And put some different colors on your trees that would not necessarily show up, so they need to be subtle, but some different colors on your trees here. That's, I think using crayons would be better because it would be more subtle. Let's see, you can just add a little more color around the edges. I'm doing this with a little darker around my edges. Again, just to give them a little more detail than what they might have. Oh, I just found out where I forgot to go on around that line. So I add a little more green maybe to this around the edges. Just for some shading and some variation. I'll also do a little bit on this one. And brighter orange. I don't think that's showing up very well. I'll try this cinnamon color. Again, we just want to add a little more detail to show the contrast between the trees we're looking at and the trees that are reflected. A little bit of black for some shading here. Take some blue, do a little bit of shading under there. So it's under the trees a little bit, just to, and next to the landscape. And then we could do, oh, we've got a broken, kind of broken crayon. Do the same thing on the ground. Again, you've worked with me long enough to know that you like that. You know that I like to do layers of color because I think it gives it more depth. And interest. So that's basically what we're doing with our crayon. Okay, so I'll let you just keep playing around with that. Put a little bit more on this one. Looked a little splotchy. There we go. All right. So again, this is one that you need to weight down so that it will lay flat, and then you can put it up. And everybody will say, "Ooh, how did you do that?" So hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you next week.